Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back once again to the BOOM. This is episode 3 now, and of course, I am your host with the most, Cam G. And of course, over to my right, now officially my co host and the man on the ones and twos, and he is the voice of Rivet City Radio, my man, the Will Gray. Will, how is your Wednesday night evening going? Let the people know.
So initially, I was like, we need a show on Wednesday nights. Cam's a great host. Let's work on getting something there for him. Boom, you fall into place. And for me, I think I have to admit it. If there was a live show to watch wrestling every week that I'm directly responsible for covering, I think I get the least amount of damage week over week with it being Dynamite. So I'm grateful for that we're not watching, NXT or something crazy. That was
Oh,
specifically
God.
for
Don't let
Scout
Scout hear you
as
say
he
that.
shows up in the chat. That was perfectly timed.
Oh
See?
boy.
That's
That's
exactly
like
why I
perfect
did
timing.
it.
Perfect timing. He's
I love you,
playing.
Scouts.
Oh man. So if you don't have anything else to add, we're gonna go ahead and dive into this Dynamite breakdown and review of tonight. Not really a huge Dynamite, I guess. Again, like I said last week, I got crap for this last week, but last week I think was probably one of the best Dynamites I think they're going to produce. Probably all the rest of August, honestly. This Dynamite, there was nothing to really, rant and rave about necessarily, but it was an okay Dynamite, I guess. It was salvageable. So Dynamite starts out, first of all, it was awesome because Dynamite is live from Columbus, Ohio. And, my mom's from Columbus, Ohio. My sisters are from Columbus, Ohio. A whole bunch of cousins and family down there. So that was pretty cool to see that it was from Columbus, Ohio. But yeah, so we're starting off with this sort of Jericho Appreciation Society court or whatever it was. It was very weird. The fans weren't really into it, obviously. It started off a very like monotone, I guess, for Dynamite. So it was very odd that this started. I'm glad it started, obviously, because I wouldn't want this later in the program. But it was very odd to start this off with. But it did have some things that I kind of liked about it. Like you had Garcia in there, and he was spitting some pretty hot fire, if you ask me. It turned out to be probably one of his better promos. I'm not sure if he's really known for his like promo skills. I guess he's more known for his in-ring ability. So it was pretty dope to see that he can also produce on the mic as well. But Will, what did you think about this whole Jericho Appreciation Society court thing?
It seems like I'm going to be just following along with our chat right now, Cam. A lot of people are in here. Jacksbo, Al, a Shadow, Prince, one is Kane. What's up, everybody? But they're
What
all
up, Ginger?
saying,
What up, King?
yeah, they said it's all very reminiscent of the tribal court. And Al said it best. Monkey see, monkey do. It seems, and it's not just AEW doing it with WWE stuff, but WWE starting to do it as well. And I said this after the Bianca Charlotte tag team thing. I said, that's their version of Adam Cole and MJF. And it's this anything you can do, I can do better, back and forth stuff. I didn't have an issue with the segment really per se, but it seems like every time Chris Jericho has a group, they have to go through this like major, very public breakup before they're allowed to break up.
Yeah.
And he did it with the Inner Circle before, and now he's doing it here. Whatever that group was, he was before what was it? With the biker with
the Inner Circle.
The Inner Circle. Okay, so that was them. But you see what I mean? Like it seems
Yeah.
to happen every time he's got a group of people, and then here we are now. Now it's the Jericho Appreciation Society version of it.
Yeah, it's kind of odd, I guess. I wish they would just have more of a traditional breakup and just kind of do their own thing. Realistically, out of this whole thing, I really just want to get back the Tag Team 2.0. I thought they had something going that was decent. They're an addition to the tag team division that I thought were great. So I just want 2.0 back. Really, that's really all I want out of this.
Do you think they're going to be able to shine in somewhere like Dynamite or somewhere like Collision?
I think they'd be better suited for Collision. I think they're perfect for Collision. Collision is kind of turning into like AEW's sort of SmackDown. The land of opportunity, if you will. They're putting faces on there that are not normally on Dynamite, are kind of getting shoved further and further down the card. So I think they'd be perfect for Collision, honestly.
You know what this reminds me of? And
What?
you're going to be like, this is when I finish talking. This is going to be one of those situations where you're going to be like, this is why I love you, Will. This is why you're my producer. Okay. This is this moment. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to get out of the way early in the first segment. And this reminds me of the 1998. We're going to go back. WCW days. All right. Nitro and Thunder. All right. The unofficial, official brand split that was the NWO running Nitro, and then all the pro wrestlers on Thunder. Okay. You look at Dynamite now, it's full of characters and, a lot of like bright, loud colors and characters and, the charismatic work. And then Collision is your FTRs and your CM Phils and your pro wrestlers. You see what I mean? So this looks a lot to me like that 98 WCW, Phil. And this isn't me going, AEW just copies WCW now. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
he's doing a good version of it, but that's ultimately what it is. And WCW was successful with it. Keep in mind, they beat Vince for 83 weeks using this model. So I don't think it's bad to look at it as, oh, he's, copying WCW. No, he's recreating the last model that beat WWE. So, I mean, let's give the man some credit for it. Crowd,
Yeah.
the chat's going crazy. Let me catch up.
Absolutely. Yeah, the chat's going absolutely crazy. Ginger, I'm glad you brought that up. I'm going to get to that later in the show about RVD. Al said because AEW is a 2023 version of WCW, or they think they are. Normally, I don't like the AEW and WCW comparison because there's so much of it. But I like what Will had said about it. It makes a lot of sense. The kind of soft brand split, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
But getting back into this segment, obviously, like I said, Garcia spitting hot fire. He said that he had turned his back on all his people and everything for the sake of Chris Jericho. So he walks out, and then eventually everybody that was part of the JAS eventually walks out. Jake Hager eventually walks out. I don't know what's next for him. Maybe he goes back to MMA. I'm not totally sure. Honestly, realistically, who really cares about this segment at all? Anna Jay, however, looked fuego. So that she was like the centerpiece of it all. So who cares? As long as Anna Jay's on my screen, I'm happy. Basically, like I said, all the members of JAS walked out on Jericho. And then, of course, also a really cool note, too, that I almost forgot to mention was Kevin Steen's name was brought up. That was pretty cool, too. I
heard that. I heard them drop Steen. I thought that was very Ring of Honor of them to do.
Yeah. That was pretty cool. I definitely like that a lot. Sammy Guevara, I think, was the most interesting one because not only was he the last one to walk out, but he claimed that Chris Jericho is his friend, so he's not going to quote unquote walk out or sort of turn his back on Jericho. And he said that Jericho has a lot of things to figure out, and when he does, he will be here for him. So I'm not quite sure where this is going. It's kind of interesting. It's one of their probably top 3, maybe top 5 or so biggest storylines going on right now. I'm not sure where this all ends. I kind of feel like it's going to come to a very disappointing end because I'm not sure what the payoff is going to be with the whole Jericho thing and him joining Don Callis and all this other stuff. But moving on, of course, we go to commercial break. We come back. Backstage, Jericho tells Don Callis that next week he will give him his answer to whether or not he joins his family. Will, where do you think this all is leading, if anywhere?
This is one of those let it play out moments for me. And I'm not saying that in a good way, though, because I'm not sure what it has to do with anything. Because I like the involvement of building this Chris Jericho is unsure of who this. It's almost like the many personalities of Chris Jericho are coming to a head, because when you watch the new entrance video, it goes through the Lionheart and the Painmaker, and it goes through his various non-WWE versions of Chris Jericho. It goes back and shows you stuff from the 90s, you know what I mean? Like all the different versions of Chris Jericho. So it's like this version of him now is not in dissension with everybody around him. It's like his friends are having that intervention, like, you have to get help and fix yourself before any of us can do anything. So, I mean, but TK may not be that smart, man. just going along with what Shadow was talking about, stuff about being snorted and stuff, and TK, Cookie Khan or whatever you want to call him. Like, let's call a spade, man. Like, I might be too smart for my own good, and I'm not sure Tony Khan is as smart as I am.
Fair enough. So would you say this is kind of like basically an on-screen version of, I guess I'll kind of tie in the other company here, but where you see documentaries about the Undertaker, and after the streak had ended and his injury after facing Brock Lesnar at that WrestleMania, is this kind of the on-screen version of Jericho kind of like losing his confidence? Of course, obviously in a kayfabe, storyline version. But would you say this is like the equivalent to that?
I think so. They're kind of stripping him down, because nobody wants to fuck with Don Callis. So him siding with Don Callis automatically puts him on an island. Like I said before, all of his friends kind of leaving him, and they're not leaving. The only one like that really looked super disgruntled was Danny G, and he kind of thrusted his hips a little bit more violently than he normally did. Like, I don't really know, but none of them looked super. They looked more upset. That ultimate dad phrase of "I'm not mad, I'm just disappointed." That's how they all looked tonight. They all looked just really disappointed in Chris Jericho. Not very many of them looked super mad at Chris Jericho, and I think that's something important to take away from here.
Shadow says AEW is the other company. WWE is the company mecca of wrestling, in my opinion.
WWE is the mecca of sports entertainment.
AEW is the alternative. So I put it in terms of the other company because that's how it's always like described as, the other company, without having to try to name them or whatever. So yeah, that's fair though. Hey, everybody has their own opinion. We went to, of course, they throughout the show they sprinkled in some stuff that happened with Collision or whatever. But on Collision, of course, no one probably watched Collision because obviously SummerSlam was the exact same night.
Whoa! Come on, I watched Collision.
Well, that's
Tuesday morning.
Okay. Okay. All right. Because I was about to say that's because again, your mind is a steel trap, and you
no, I didn't. I forgot it existed until yesterday. Then I was like, "Oh fuck, I need to watch Collision."
Exactly. So, unless you had like two different TVs set up side by side, and you're watching SummerSlam and Collision at the exact same time, no one was really watching Collision. Everybody was primarily watching SummerSlam. But, however, on Collision, they had showed the, I guess, a promo that FTR had, the current AEW World Tag Team Champions, calling out the Bucks for All In at Wembley. So that should be a banger, for sure. Next up, we have the match between the Young Buckaroos and the Hardy Boys. So, to be honest, I think this match was pretty decent for what it was. But I can't even believe I'm saying this, but after everything that Jeff Hardy has been through, I thought Jeff Hardy looked great. Jeff Hardy looked great. He looked better than, man. He looked really good, and I don't think I've seen him look that good in the ring in quite some time. Like he's moving better, and like I said again, for his age and everything that he's put his body through over the years, I thought he looked great. Now, of course, gone are the years of when he was like Flash. And he's flying around the ring and he's diving and he's doing all that. But he did what he could. He looks better than his brother. His brother now, I guess it was kind of always apparent, but it's even more apparent now the later they get in their careers how just how out of shape Matt Hardy really looks. Like it's so much apparent now. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I thought he looked great, and yeah, it was fantastic. At one point, of course, the Bucks do what they do best, and they have their high flying acrobatics. They did the super kick party. I know everybody hates that move because it's so quote unquote overused or whatever, but I thought it was great. One particular point in the match, the Bucks had actually hit a 3D, and it was funny because the commentators actually were like speechless. It was like silence just came over them. And they were just like, I don't know what to do here. We can't necessarily say the Dudleys and the 3D, but yeah. So I thought it was pretty funny that they hit a 3D. Of course, they end up hitting the BTE trigger on Matt Hardy. and that ends it 1-2-3. They eventually then call out FTR after the match, and nothing was even said. Nothing was even said other than Wembley all in, and I'm hyped for that match. Will, what do you think? What do you think? Do you think that would be the match, the best match of the night at Wembley? FTR versus the Young Bucks?
Possibly. I think starting with the match tonight, you're a music fan, right? You
Yeah,
know who the Rolling Stones are. Like, even
of
if you're not a
course.
fan of their music, you know who they are.
Of course.
When you see the Rolling Stones live in concert, you know they're going to play Paint It Black. They're going to play Sympathy for the Devil. They're going to play the hits, right? That's what Matt and Jeff Hardy did tonight, and it looked fucking great, dude. They went out there and they played the hits. They didn't
Absolutely.
try to do 1,000 things to get over with the crowd, to get themselves. What's
Thank
up,
you, Jay.
Gitcho? Thanks for
Thank you.
stopping by, Just. Great to see you, brother. Scissor me daddy, Just. They played the hits, man, and they looked great doing it. Matt and Jeff don't have to go out there like it's 2001 and they're competing for the tag titles. Go
Right.
out there, hit the twist of fate, hit a poetry in motion, take a BTE and put the other guys over. Exactly, Jess, you said it best. The Hardys did the Hardys. And I think that's why this looks so much better than the stuff they've done previously.
Mm-hmm.
Like in this most recent run, is because tonight they just cooled down, slowed down, and played their hits. Going into Wembley, however, I think if they build the story between them over the next 2 weeks leading up to the show, and then on top of that, the Hardys go over, or not the Hardys, and the Bucks go over there with FTR, and they do a match that accentuates both. Let the Bucks hit their high spots and let FTR call the rest of it. You know what I mean?
Right.
Let the Bucks go. Okay, these are the things we know we have to do. We're gonna hit the Meltzer driver. We're gonna have a super kick party. We're gonna hit a BTE trigger. Like, let us do our spots. You call the rest of us and make us look real good. That's what needs to happen at Wembley.
I think, oh man, who was it? I think it was Tony Schiavone that said it best. I think it was. It might have been Excalibur. One of them said it. And I guess they said that the Hardys are now adopting a new philosophy where it's work smarter, not harder now, which
Yes.
I'm not sure what that means for their in-ring ability. I think maybe it just means they're not taking as many risks as what they did when they were younger and in the early days of their careers, which I'm all for. Like I said, again, if it keeps them healthy and it gives them obviously that one last ride that I think they deserve, obviously, yeah, I'm all for it. Obviously,
Do you think the Hardys will get one more title? Or you are talking about the Hardys, right?
yeah, the Hardys.
Yeah. Do you think the Hardys will get one more title run before they hang up the boots? Do you think, even if it's not AEW, do you think they'll get a run somewhere?
I don't necessarily think I don't necessarily want to call it a or one last title run necessarily, because anytime when I'm thinking of a title run, whether it be the tag titles or a singles title, I'm thinking it's a time span of a few months or so, and I don't even think they realistically have that left in them. I'm just being honest. I think maybe they have till maybe early 2024, like January, February, maybe. So I'm thinking they'll get like right now they're on their last quote unquote run. Like they're getting one last, not really a major push, but like a soft core push as the Hardys, obviously, before they're just done completely. So I obviously think there's going to be some sort of title tournament or something like that of sorts, where they have the whole, the classic run and chase to the titles, whatever. They'll go all through, some of the best tag teams that AEW has to offer throughout that tournament. Then they'll face whoever's the champions at the time, whether it be FTR or whoever, and win that title at Revolution or Full Gear or whatever it is, and that'll be like their last like hoorah. You know what I'm saying? But I don't necessarily think that they would win the titles, and obviously I think it's going to be with AEW, obviously, but I don't think they're going to necessarily win the titles and then go on some kind of run where they're doing, a defense every other week or month or whatever it is. I just don't think they have that left in them realistically. I think this is literally their one last real push. So
Have the Hardys reached that point in their career now where, if you look at like the overall body of work of what they have, it's to the point where this has to be their last run then? because if they continue to push it, and they'll get Jeff Jarrett syndrome, where they'll continue to work for too long and they'll start getting that astronomical nuclear go home heat, which isn't good heel heat. You know what I mean? Like, is this the last time where they have a chance to go? Is this the last chance they have before people are going? You're just hurting your reputation. You're just, tarnishing your legacy, whatever analogy you want to look. Like, are they at that point where they can start hurting their overall legacy if they stay in the game too long?
I think so. I really do. That's always a problem with some of these legendary wrestlers that we know of. I mean, take your pick: Undertaker, Ric Flair, Mick Foley. I mean, it goes on and on and on and on. We want to remember them as they were in their prime, right? So we never want to see them overstay their welcome to a point where they're moving slower and they're sluggish and they're not hitting their moves the way they used to and things like that. Because eventually you stay in the game too long and it just kind of looks ridiculous, right? And it just starts to look like you're just a caricature of what you were when you were younger. So yeah, I wouldn't even say the Jarrett syndrome. I would even say the Ric Flair syndrome, where they're just keep going and keep going and keep going. And it kind of just seems like they realistically have nothing better to do besides wrestling. So it's like maybe they don't have the necessary passion anymore to be the best, but they want to stay in the game because they literally are clinging on to it because they have nothing else left to do once their dream of what they've already accomplished is done. So yeah, this has to be their last run. Otherwise, I think it'll just get ridiculous. For sure.
One more Hardy question, and then I'll let you have your show back.
You're good. You're good.
Are the Hardys that quintessential babyface tag team or babyface singles competitor where no matter what, it's more about the chase than their actual title reign? And here's my example. Okay, I'll give you a singles run for both of them. The build in 2001 for TLC2, where they actually don't win the tag titles. It's just the chase against two really over heel tag teams in Edge and Christians and the Dudley Boys. Then both singles competitors, Matt's climb to the ECW heavyweight title and him getting the rub by a couple of those vets on the way, and it just being that chase to actually getting it, and then his ECW title reign being kind of lackluster. Same thing with Jeff. Everybody remembers the ladder match with The Undertaker that he lost for the title. Then his actual title reigns holding the spinner and some of those other things. So are the Hardys that babyface team that just needs to chase the titles, but maybe when they have them, their title reigns aren't as rememberable as the chase of actually getting there?
Right. Yeah, no, I definitely think it's definitely that chase. I think you could put anybody in that category, honestly. So yeah, like I said, honestly, it's all about that chase or whatever. And I just don't think, like I said, again, I'm not sure what they've got left in the tank. Of course, like I said, this is their careers. So if they could sit there and say that they're not done. But honestly, like Shadow in the chat said, in his opinion, that they were done 4 years ago. I would agree with that. I think, like I said, once they started slowing down, I think they should have considered retirement then. Because, like I said, again, if you can't do it at the level that you were doing it before, that, of course, the fans remember you doing it at, it's just kind of like, yeah, I think it's time to just listen to your body and just sort of just step back from it. So, but yeah, great stuff, though. I didn't expect us to have that long conversation about the Hardys, but it's great. It's great stuff. Great stuff. Oh boy, where was I even at now?
We just finished the Hardy Buck segment.
Right. Thank you. Okay, so moving on from that, of course, like I said, we got the Bucks and FTR at All In. Now this one baffles me a little bit, and it honestly kind of just I can't even explain it. But since when did AEW start doing rematch clauses? Because next up we saw this weird women's tournament for the championship at All In, which will of course go on to the final four, and then we'll have a fatal four-way for the AEW Women's World Championship. Now, what I'm scratching my head at is the fact that Toni Storm, who lost the title to Hikaru Shida last week on Dynamite, has invoked her rematch clause, and she is the first one out of the 4 in this match because she invoked a rematch clause and gets some sort of bye week. Now, you got Hikaru Shida, who was in the main event tonight, who has to, I guess, win tonight to be in the Fatal 4-Way match. But what I'm confused on is she's already the Women's World Champion. Shouldn't she already be in the match at Wembley? She's
So
the champion.
theoretically speaking, if they do this and if she were to lose before we get to the match itself, yes, your logic is sound. Hikaru Shida could lose the match and not get the spot in the match, theoretically making the match for the title, the Fatal 4-Way match, not having the champion in it to actually defend her title. The logic makes no sense to book it this way.
What are we doing here? Like I didn't understand that. Like
This is
that
a
was very
weird place to throw the rematch clause in
that
because it
right.
was a championship match tonight. I didn't, that may be true. I was listening half volume on, half volume off. I had it. I was in the middle of a great interview dropping tomorrow. No free shout outs. Rush Freeman, NWA superstar. Great get. But the sound was off. They may have said it was a championship match, but that's
Was
not
it?
how I heard. I didn't hear it get pitched as a
I didn't hear
championship
that either.
match when they first said it because this was
I didn't hear
the Eliminators tournament for it or whatever. See, I definitely didn't see
See, I didn't hear
the
that.
clause of them
I did
adding it.
not hear that. Not at
Thank you.
all.
If that's the case, cool. But I
If
definitely
that's
did
the
not hear
case,
them say
okay.
that. Yeah, because I heard it was the Eliminators tournament for a Fatal 4-Way match. Just the gist of it, Cam. And I'm sorry. You know what this is? This is some thrown together bullshit, bro. I think Cam froze. Uh-oh. Still doesn't make sense to have your champ win their way in. That's exactly what I was saying. All the jokes aside, and I can be sarcastic and obnoxious and funny and whatever, but at the core of what's happening here, you're absolutely right. Toni Storm, this isn't the place for her to invoke her rematch clause because this is the perfect opportunity to build her back up as a viable option as the champion. So her invoking a rematch clause says, I lost, but I still get more of a shot than the rest of the people that are in this right now. So when you look at it overall, that's what I think it makes it seem like a faulty way to book it because this could be the perfect way to build Toni Storm up to be a bigger viable threat in that women's division, and that's not what happened. It was thrown together because Hayter's not coming back. She's definitely still injured. We know that for sure. I'm medium hot on Hayter. She started to win me over right as soon as she got hurt, and then I found myself in this weird position where I was just like, maybe she got hit too soon. TK can't book women's period. They need to magnify
Sorry. Technical
that.
difficulties.
No, you're good. I feel like no, I was just continuing to talk about it and to kind of preach about how it didn't make any sense because if your women's champion has to win to get into the match, if she did lose, then it was just a whole lot of what ifs, and I don't like to have to ask why when we watch pro wrestling anymore.
Exactly.
If I have to ask why, like this isn't a Quentin Tarantino movie here, man. Like you shouldn't have to think this much about the interwoven points of your storyline because the core values of what this is, two people are going to beat the shit out of each other because they don't like one another. We don't need all these deep woven stories to try to make it make sense. I'm not saying don't give me any story, but don't make it a fucking M. Night Shyamalan movie.
Might I add, Saraya versus Sky Blue. Like, are they kidding me right now? We know who's going to win that match. Like,
well, I felt that way about Hikaru Shida and Anna Jay, though, man. Like, it was the same thing.
Like,
It's, right there off the top, Scout says, in 2 weeks in a row with women in the main event is a response to what was said about the women's locker room and division. This isn't a quality over quantity thing, though. You can put women on screen and it not make any sense or better any stories or do anything for your fucking promotion, and it's still not helping your women's division. Just booking women's matches doesn't promote and move your women's division forward, TK.
No, not at all. Not at all.
Adam says, yeah, because she was winning. It was one of those things you can't, if it's predictable, it's not fun anymore. And tonight, that would be my biggest takeaway, Cam. We haven't even finished the show yet. Tonight seemed almost too predictable in a lot of ways. I will say that. Let me ask this: is the AEW Women's Division in the Divas era? I wouldn't say 4 years in. Cam, what do you think?
About what Shadow just said?
Yeah, is this the AEW's Women's Division's Divas era? Have we already got to that point?
I don't know if I'd go that far, but it's obvious that something is wrong with that division and locker room. And of course, it starts with booking of how they're booked. And I don't think TK really values women's wrestling in his own company. So I think it starts there. Um, I'm not sure, man. It's just there's a lot of it. See, the funny thing is when I'm looking at the graphic of this tournament, I'm seeing that I think it's a lot of politicking going on because I think the people who have always been on top or people who are normally always in women's matches, people like Britt Baker and Saraya, they're always in the mix of these top priority matches. Whereas you have other women on or in a part of that division, but they're never getting pushed. So something is happening. I don't know if it's like favoritism or if it's just straight up just like I said, politicking backstage for these certain women to stay on top. So it's very, very strange.
Do you want to use this as a segue to one of the things we were talking about coming up?
Absolutely. We might as well go ahead and do
Because
the
this is
cool
the
down.
perfect opportunity for us to segue into this
Absolutely.
before we finish the back half of the show.
Absolutely. We might as well go ahead and do the cool down and vibe now.
And we could talk
So,
about the LuFisto stuff, right?
absolutely. Absolutely.
So did you pull up any of the tweets? Did you have it pulled up by any chance?
No, I did not.
I don't have them pulled up, but the long and the short of it is she came forward and said, and for those of you who don't know, LuFisto was she tried out with AEW. She didn't get a contract, but she got the callback. Now's not the time. We're going to use you though. So she would come back. She worked the occasional dark or dark elevation. Like she would be enhancement talent. But ultimately, LuFisto came out and said that the AEW women's locker room is toxic and ultimately ran like a mafia. That it's the Britt Baker show. If you don't agree with Britt or she doesn't like you, then you're going to have trouble getting over. She called Thunder Rosa out by name as saying this was it. Like Thunder Rosa knew this. And then the AEW locker room banded together and was like, this is just somebody who doesn't work for us talking shit about the company. So that's the synopsis, the too long didn't read version of it. So I'm going to hand it back to you, Cam, now to kind of let you segue the rest of the conversation for it.
It's so I've researched a lot of this on LuFisto and the whole AEW women's locker room situation. At first, it started out, and I was kind of thinking, okay, maybe LuFisto is kind of the one that maybe is stirring the pot a bit. Maybe. I don't know. But then the more I dug into this, it just kind of seems more like there is a serious problem backstage. I'm not sure what it is. And again, like I said, I don't, I'm not trying to beat a dead horse here, but it goes back to Tony Khan. Because either he just doesn't know what's going on in his locker room or he just doesn't care. I'm not sure. Now, again, like I said, with him being, the man in AEW, obviously, he has to be the one to, get order in his locker room. And if he doesn't want to do it, now I get it. You were talking about grown men and women here, so he might not want to play babysitter. I understand that wholeheartedly. But if he doesn't want to do it, then he needs to get somebody on by his side. He needs to get and I hate to put it this way, but he needs to get a Bruce Pritchard or a Nick Khan, if you will, by his side that's going to keep order in his locker room and get down to what is the issue in the locker room for both men and women for that matter.
I'm going to look it up real quick. I wonder who the director of talent relations is for AEW.
That's
right
good.
now.
That's yeah.
I'm going to look it up right now as you talk.
No idea. But yeah, I'm pretty sure.
That's Christopher Daniels, who is also an active wrestler in Ring of Honor, is the current director of talent relations. So the person who held JR's job, the person who held Vince Russo's job, the person who held Triple H's job, the person in AEW who controls the talent at large is Christopher Daniels, who is an active wrestler for Ring of Honor right now.
Interesting.
So I'm just
Shadow
curious,
says,
oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, Shadow had said that's why he brought Jeff Jarrett camp. I don't know if you're making a joke or if that's serious, but I think Jeff Jarrett is too busy about being on screen as a wrestler.
He's the current director of live television production is his title. He does what Road Dogg does in WWE when it comes to like live shows and like, you know, the person who's in charge of making sure the ring goes up, the ring comes down, like production knows where to go, the person who directs the show on live show days. That's what Jeff Jarrett does for AEW. I was partially being serious. Jeff Jarrett wouldn't necessarily be a bad mind. When you talk about the guy who's been there for a long time, he's got the experience, he's got the know-how, the wherewithal, he's got the business knowledge, the big one. People like to say he's got a mind for the business. Jeff Jarrett definitely has a mind for the business. Would he be a good Pritchard, that buffer, that kind of, you know, the wrestling mind that can talk to wrestlers like wrestlers versus a TK who is the kid playing with his action figures?
Right. Could be.
Yeah, I think that's what we're saying. We both agree to help get his locker room under control. He needs somebody who's actually been in a wrestling locker room.
Right. Absolutely.
She's the head trainer for the women's division. So yeah, she's in a super, like a very similar role to that. But she even like, that's almost like a queen's position in Parliament at this point, though, because TK seems to be the Thor in this, you know, holding the hammer. He's the say all be all. So,
right. Absolutely. The crazy thing about it is it's just kind of saddening for LuFisto because, you know, it seems like she's kind of being bullied essentially after, you know, just speaking her mind of what she saw backstage. I heard she canceled a few shows that she was supposed to be booked at. It's honestly kind of sad because, like I said, she was bringing to light a serious problem with the AEW women's locker room, and people are looking at her as the bad guy now. But I think if you ask me, they're only proving her point, and it's making that women's locker room look even more toxic. So I'm not sure, man. Like I said, and I think the layout of this tournament, like I said, I think it only proves my point. Like I said, the talent that's always at the top are involved in this tournament. So I think that says a lot. But ladies and gentlemen, this is the Cool Down and Vibe session of the show. Shout out to everybody in the chat. Thank you guys for showing up. Follow us on all platforms. Follow us, subscribe. Of course, we are on Twitch, on River City Radio, and on Off the Top Media. So follow us on there as well. I've got some more stuff here in the Cool Down and Vibe session, obviously. Oh, I already asked you about that, but I'll ask you again about the women's locker room thing. Do you think it is backstage politics that is playing a part, or do you think it is just bad booking?
I think it's a little bit of both. I'm by no means saying that I have any real experience in the wrestling business, but in almost 3 years of covering pro wrestling on a professional standpoint, I have spent quite a bit of time in pro wrestling locker rooms, interacting with wrestlers and promoters. And this is one of those things where it's like, no matter what level I was a chef, starting at the bare bones as a dishwasher at McDonald's, all the way up to the fine dining Michelin-rated restaurants I went to as an executive chef. You know what every restaurant has?
What's that?
Fucking drama. Everywhere, man. Every job you have, there's drama. So I feel like AEW is not different because they have drama in their women's division. You know what I mean? He said order. They all have orders. Chef scouts, they do. No. Like there's drama everywhere. So I look at it as AEW is not special because they have drama. That doesn't make them elite, as funny as it were. The issue with that is that like they keep allowing their drama to be made very public. And we talk about this a lot in our lives. Like, if you're an adult, what do? I say, come to me and talk to me like a man. You know what I mean? Let's not go to social media. We don't make a shit ton of posts. Right. The problem TK has is he has a lot of problems with people wanting to make this shit public. You know what I mean? And that's where it seems to be the problem, is because when you make shit public, there's 3 sides to every story. Side 1, side 2, and there's truth. When shit goes public, you never clearly get told any one of those 3 sides. And I think that's what we're seeing here with this locker room debate, is because we hear Britt's side, we hear Thunder Rosa's side, we hear LuFisto's side, we hear Tony Khan's side, we hear MJF's side, we hear everybody's side of the story, but we never really find out what the truth behind it is.
Agreed. Absolutely. Now, to mix up the conversation, taking it over to the Mecca, as Shadow called it, in the WWE, the Cody Rhodes agenda is in full force. So after beating Brock Lesnar at SummerSlam, first of all, I have 2 questions. 1, what do you think is next for Cody Rhodes? And 2, do you believe that there is a Cody Rhodes fatigue already setting in amongst fans?
There's the old mantra, and I say it a lot. Vince McMahon starts booking for WrestleMania at SummerSlam. And I know Vince McMahon doesn't hold the pencil anymore for WWE, but we all know he's still hyper invested in the company. So I would say right now, what we're seeing laid are the seeds to what will grow to April of 2024 in Philadelphia. I think right now we will start to see Cody shifting his focus in some way. We're going to see, it looked like it might be Seth, but the Shinsuke thing says, okay, it's going to be Seth and Shinsuke next. So hopefully Cody allows himself to become, properly oriented with the undisputed universal title, because everybody wants that to be the title he gets. That's the story he has to finish. That's the one, right? So I hope that whatever they do next with him are movements on the chess pieces that make him getting back to SmackDown and back to Roman Reigns makes sense. That's what I think needs to happen. What I want to happen is they have to start positioning him so in 9 months from now, we're not going to be going, so wait, how the fuck did we get back to Cody and Roman? You know what I mean? Let's start building it now so it makes sense come WrestleMania 40, because it doesn't, with the injury and the fact that Roman's taking a vacation, it doesn't look like he's dropping the belts anytime soon. So let's start building something now that makes sense to him dropping those belts at 40 then, if that's the case.
So my fear is that it's going to end up being him winning the Rumble again next year, which I hope that's not the case, because I can see this going into like sort of a Batista situation, if
Hogan's,
you know what I'm saying.
Michael, Austin,
and I don't want that to happen again. So
there's not very many people that have won 2 in a row, man. That's a big that's a big achievement. Hogan's, Michael, Austin. Those are the only 3. That's a big group of people to throw Cody Rhodes in there with.
That's very true. But my fear is that he'll get booed if he wins the Rumble again, and that's what I don't want. Because if this is their guy, if this is their guy to beat Roman, you don't want the guy to be, the final boss, if you will, to be booed. It's just not a good look on WWE. And of course, with the growing popularity of one LA Knight, it's seeming that the fans have spoken once again. They've used their voice, and I think they want that to be their guy, not Cody Rhodes. So I'm not sure. I can already see a Cody Rhodes fatigue setting in, and fans not really wanting it to be Cody Rhodes as much. But I don't know. It's a tough situation.
I can see it. That's a good alternate too, Shadow. And see, that's the way you build the story further, is everybody will expect Cody to win at Rumble. So maybe have a Raw superstar win to challenge Seth. And then, Cody has to win the Elimination Chamber to have a shot at it. I've been screaming as if Cody don't go back to back, how do you get him to Mania? Exactly what I was saying. Have him win the Elimination Chamber for a contender spot. Gunther, I swear to you, they will figure out a way to safely take that belt off of him within 30 days of beating Honky's record. I want somebody to write this down, clip this. Within 30 days of him losing that title, he will be immediately put into the world title picture. As soon as they take the IC title off of him, Gunther will be in the world title picture in some capacity. It's just a matter of time. 30 days afterwards, he'll be in the story for the big belt.
So wait, does he breaks the record first and then
he'll break the record? He'll break the record, and within a month of breaking the record, he'll drop the belt and immediately get pushed into the world title scene.
I like it.
So you're looking in the next 60 days. What's up, Sammy?
Hey, what's going on, Sammy?
One of our favorite gals in the chat, always dropping some love with the cheers. Thank you, Sammy, for coming by. We love you.
One last segment of the Cool Down and Vibe session, and then we'll get back into Dynamite. In the WWE, of course, the Bloodline storyline is the Bloodline storyline sort of being dragged out now with, of course, Jimmy Uso turning on Jey Uso. A lot of people would agree that the Bloodline storyline is sort of getting stale, or they are getting desperate and they're just dragging it out. We are, I believe, 8 or 9 months away from WrestleMania 40. So what will they do from here to WrestleMania 40 to sort of continue this storyline?
Have you ever heard that TikTok sound? It's where it's like, I'm tired, Grandpa. And then it goes, well, that's too damn bad.
Yeah.
That's the IWC right now. The IWC is looking at Triple H, and he's the grandpa. And they were like, we're tired of the bloodline. We loved it. It was great. Just stop. Just stop. Not everybody has to have a heel turn. And then Triple H is like, well, that's too damn bad. Jimmy's coming back, and now he's turning on his brother again. Cam froze again. Uh-oh. So here we go. That's the point, ladies and gentlemen, is that I've been saying it for weeks, and I'll say it again. This bloodline drama and saga ever since WrestleMania 39, and they had to change the situation with Cody. If Cody had never hurt himself, then we maybe not even be here to begin with. But he did, and we are. And because of the fact now that they found themselves in this position, they have to figure out how to make it stretch and to make it work. And I use the analogy a lot. You don't want to go to a well one too many times, because that well will eventually run dry and there won't be anything to do with it. And I think this is maybe one of those situations. This is one of the first times since this whole thing, that guy, they want to drag this out until Mania. I think they definitely do. Then Heyman is the final at WrestleMania 40, hoping Cody, because it's his respect to Dusty. That shit pissed me off. The wife said she isn't interested anymore. And that's what I'm talking about. Nate, you're right there. Fantastic point is that I think they've gone to that well one too many times. And now with them going to the well one too many times, the water's not there anymore. Jimmy's turn was unnecessary.
Facts.
So I was just keeping it going. The whole water in the well thing. They were getting it too dry. They went there one too many times. Unnecessary turns, because both the brothers have already done this already. So now this is Jimmy's second turn, and it's like it just keeps going back and forth. And then, a couple weeks ago, Jimmy was supposed to have gotten hurt, and that whole time Roman and then beat the shit out of him and injured him, to where he's been off of TV for 2 or 3 weeks. That was all a work. He took the jump just so he could convince his brother. Like, no, this is one of those why situations. I don't want to have to ask why.
For sure. Absolutely. But anyways, that concludes our Cool Down and Vibe session. We're to get back into Dynamite. So after the whole confusion of, the whole tournament of the women's world title, we had probably one of the most hilarious segments with MJF and Adam Cole going to a trampoline park, which I thought was hilarious. MJF was playing dodgeball, as he called it, and he was just annihilating little kids. That was hilarious. That was hilarious. Yeah, he had this little girl that came up to Cole, and she was just like, "You guys are grown men. Why are you at a trampoline park?" He goes, he tells her, "Hey, little girl, you shouldn't talk like that." and the little girl flips him off, and then Cole's just like, one more, just one more, just get this last one for me. Honestly, bro, I don't know about you, but I would say better than you, baby, with that segment right there. Easily, single-handedly saved this Dynamite. It's
MJF
the
said,
best
"Fuck them
thing
kids."
going on right now in AEW, and I'm loving it. Absolutely.
100% agree. And not just because I'm sitting here as a Jewish man wearing an MJF scarf. This is the absolute best thing in AEW, man. Like, you know, what did he say in the promo? He says it later in the show when they come back out and they cut their promos. It's like, I might be the devil, but I'm your devil or whatever. Like,
Yes.
you know what I mean? Like,
Yes.
that's what I'm talking about here. He's like, he's killing it, dude. He went from being the most hated heel in AEW overnight to being in the biggest babyface tag team not named FTR.
Absolutely. For sure. Moving on, we had the BCC backstage with Moxley hyping up their match later on in the program with the Lucha Bros. Apparently, it was announced too that Pac is out with an injury. The man just came back. How he's injured already? Like,
did he get hurt at Blood and Guts then?
He must have got hurt at Blood and Guts, and I bet you it had something to do with that spot of him hanging off the top of the cell.
And the coup de grace off the cell through the table or whatever.
I wouldn't doubt it. I don't know why you would take that risk if you just came back anyways, but
it looked a little flush. That's the best way to put it. Looked a little flush.
So I have no idea. Apparently, I think they're setting up a possibility of maybe because they said that Pac's recovery is, I think it might be in time for Wembley, so we might be getting Death Triangle versus the BCC, which I'm all for. Take my money. I'm all for that, obviously.
I love you, Jax.
We have Hunter Hearst Helmsley, Jack Perry, coming out with that awful music of his. And the next match we have is RVD versus Jack Perry for the FTW Championship. Hearing RVD's old theme, it just sounds like a video game. Like, it just doesn't sound real. Like, it's really, really cool. RVD, man, and I said, I see a lot of people in the chat said it earlier. RVD still moves really, really well, which shocked me because I wasn't sure what he was going to be able to do, but he moved really, really well. Will, what did you think of seeing RVD out there, man?
First and foremost, I am old enough to remember Pantera. Dimebag Darrell, the guitar player, was unfortunately unalived on stage during a show. While the band was performing, a guy ran on stage with a sawed-off shotgun and unalived him and shot at his brother, who was the drummer of the band. And I was a huge metalhead when I was younger, before I got really deep into my hippie days and started listening to like Grateful Dead and Widespread Panic. I was listening to Hatebreed and Pantera. So very different, drastic changes in music. But Pantera is an amazing band. I love them. Walk is a fucking amazing song. Rest in peace, Dimebag Darrell. This made 13-year-old Will so fucking happy to see RVD come out to Walk. Like, come on, dude. Like, that's old school ECW original Eastern Championship Wrestling ECW RVD. Like, that was just, it didn't matter if he walked out and all he did was hit a rolling thunder and then take the pin. Like, it didn't matter. No matter what, RVD was going to win this match, win, lose, or draw, just because it was him coming out, letting the crowd eat it up, doing all this stuff. He had the leotard on, the whole effing show. Fucking 13-year-old Will, like, creamed his pants. It was amazing.
But yeah, man, Rob looked great. He hit a wicked corkscrew leg drop on the outside of the barricade. That was awesome. The impact of that was amazing. I mean, he did everything. You know, he was doing the Rolling Thunder. He hit a Van whatever nader with the chair in the corner on Jack Perry. The only real botch was the split-legged moonsault, and I just think he had so much momentum going forward. He was like trying to keep his balance or whatever. But other than that, he looked great. He is a step slower getting to the top rope, setting up for the 5-star frog splash. But other than that, he looked amazing. At one point, Jack Perry chucked a chair at Rob's head, and the ref just ate it. Now, when Rob hit the 5-star frog splash and there was no referee, Aubrey sprinted down to the ring doing her best Charles Robinson impression. 1-2 kick out, but then after that, Rob was arguing with Aubrey. Low blow, Jack rams RVD's head into the chair that was set up in the corner. 1-2-3 after the roll up. I don't know where Jack Perry goes from here, but I thought it was a pretty decent match. It was a lot better match than I thought it was going to be. Next, we have Lucha Bros backstage with Renee, hyping up tonight's match with the BCC. Then we got Better Than You, Baby. We got a promo. So we got them twice.
Two segments, Cam.
Two segments. We got a segment that was recorded of them in a trampoline facility. And now we got them live on Dynamite in a promo. So once again, they didn't just save the show once, but they saved the show twice. At one point, Adam Cole. Well, first of all, MJF. First of all, he's lying through his. First of all, do not have sympathy for the devil. He has already pulled this trick once, but he is claiming in his babyface stage. Obviously, he is claiming that he never said that the Midwest was mid, and he even said that God would construct him down right where he stands. He said that the Midwest is his favorite place ever. Again, like I said, do not have sympathy for the devil. He is fooling all of you. But I thought this was great. At one point he thought Cole was trying to have a promo battle with him. What he said about Hogan, and Shadow had said it earlier, I thought was hysterical. That was hilarious.
Let me find it one more time. You were so skinny and ghastly pale white that if you were in the 80s, Hogan would have snorted you. Oh my word! Great. What a fucking line, bro.
That was hilarious.
Koki Khan lost his mind. He said, "Wait, somebody Holden? William Holden come to the show tonight? William Holden in the back."
That was hilarious. But Cole goes on and he lists his accomplishments of his in back when he was in Ring of Honor and all the titles that he held. But the one championship he never got to hold was the Ring of Honor Tag Team titles. Of course, the Ring of Honor Tag Team champions right now are Aussie Open. So he's laying out the challenge to Aussie Open.
Oh, sorry. Anytime Aussie Open comes on my screen, I have this tendency to fall a fucking sleep.
That's fair, bro. I don't know much about Aussie Open. I really don't. But Cole laid out the challenge to Aussie Open for him and MJF to challenge them for the Ring of Honor Tag Team titles for the pre-show at All In, which means MJF and Adam Cole will wrestle twice in the same night at the same event. Will, what do you think? What do you think about this? Do you think that's a good idea, or is it kind of overkill?
I think this is Tony Khan selling 90,000 tickets without a card and him going, fuck, I got to make this worth $16 million or whatever he just made off of it. Like, he's throwing a card together last minute, not out of necessity, but because I think he's going to make it the biggest super show he can, because immediately 7 days after he's got to put together All Out, which is a major pay-per-view for his company. So the next, 2 weeks leading into the pay-per-views are going to be super crucial for TK, because we're going to see a lot of stuff come into fruition for him into this. And I think adding this match is exactly that. He's padding his card in England.
Another person you probably don't care for who also came out and he's kind of playing the jealous ex-brosive is Roderick Strong. I'm not sure how you feel about Roderick Strong, but a lot of people would probably say that he's kind of bland, I guess. I don't know. Why is he still wearing a neck brace? Like, we're still going with this neck brace storyline?
Because he's trying to be Andy Kaufman, bro. Kaufman wore a neck brace after the Lawler Pile Driver for like a fucking year. I don't even remember what Roddy did to have to wear a neck brace at this point.
I don't remember. So long. That was a while ago.
And have you ever watched this? Have you ever seen somebody who legitimately hurt their neck, Cam? Somebody who has to wear a neck brace because they're hurt? Do they run around and like try to tackle motherfuckers and stuff? No. Come on, dude. Like at least sell it a little bit. Like homeboy's just running around like whole ass sprints, like trying to fist fight MJF while he's in a neck brace. Like that's not convincing at all.
He's probably tired of the gimmick, probably.
Being Adam Cole's annoying little friend.
apparently he joined, I guess, the Kingdom now. The Kingdom, I guess, of welcoming a new member in Roderick Strong.
Roddy
Which
Strong in the Kingdom? So he
I
goes from
guess so.
being the third best person in Undisputed Era to being the third best person, fourth best person in the Kingdom, because I'd say Maria Kanellis can outwork Roddy Strong.
Maybe he's just the odd man out in all these factions. I don't know.
Even Scals and I agree. This is dumb as fuck. Me and Scals agree a lot. I'd say that. We usually get along. We cool. Me and Scals, we go way back. Months now.
Eventually, at one point in that promo, MJF, of course, makes fun of Roderick Strong. And then, of course, when they kind of walk off with Roderick Strong in the Kingdom, Cole kind of shoves MJF, gets in his face or whatever. And, of course, cooler heads prevail. But for how much longer is the question.
You remember when Seth Rollins and Braun Strowman had the tag titles and Braun Strowman wanted the Universal Championship?
Oh, yeah.
Do we think this is what they're going to do here? Are they going to take the titles off of Aussie Open so that we get a double champion MJF, and they have to split the tag team up eventually? Because, you see what I'm going with this? Like, is TK ballsy enough to do it this way to where he can
I think so. Like, I think he's probably going to milk this for every single red cent that he can get out of it.
Because there's no way you have Aussie Open beat these two cleanly without tarnishing either your AEW champion or your number one contender. You know what I mean? So it has to either end with them taking the belts or ending in a no contest with a turn. So that way the title match means something huge at that point. You know what I mean? Either Adam has to turn and it ends in no contest, or MJF does, or they win the fucking ROH titles.
Right.
But you know what that means though, Cam? That means I will get to say on every single brand, no matter the company, I'll get to say this. Brand splits don't mean anything. They're not real.
Hey, I can't disagree with that. That's fair. That is very fair. What do we got next? Oh, we got the BCC versus the Lucha Bros. There was nothing really that spectacular about this match. I think it kind of slowed the pace down with Dynamite. I think it was starting to pick up, and this match kind of slowed the pace or whatever. It was an okay match. The thing I did not like was when Ray Phoenix took a spiked pile driver, and then Taz had said, "Oh yeah, I broke my neck that way." It's like, I don't really want to hear that just because he just took the move. And it's like, I just don't want to be reminded of somebody breaking their neck in said move. I don't know if that makes any sense, but yeah, it was just kind of weird.
This match was as I eloquently put it a lot of times, that kind of train wreck match that doesn't make any sense. Right. This is huge. And this is me being nitpicky, but I felt like this was bigger than what they made it out to be. They took Penta's mask off in the middle of this match.
Mm-hmm.
That's huge in Lucha Libre. For them to do that on free television with no buildup, that's some dastardly heel stuff to do in a one-off match between two factions. You know what I mean? Yeah. The Death Triangle and BCC have crossed paths. They just had Pac on their team for blood and guts. That escalated quickly to turn up to taking his mask off. Exactly, Jax. Just stop fucking with your mask. That was very Kevin Nash versus Rey Mysterio of them to rip Penta's mask off like that in the middle of the match.
And then parade around with it.
Yeah. And for Cesaro to put it on, and I called him Cesaro because I wanted to disrespect him, because to put Penta's mask on like that in the middle of the match was disrespectful.
Absolutely. It kind of looked like the ending sequence of the match, kind of like Ray Phoenix hurt his knee, maybe on a moonsault on the outside on Wheeler Yuta. I'm not sure, but hopefully he's okay. I would definitely love to see Lucha Bros back on television. Hopefully we get Lucha Bros versus FTR at some point for the tag team titles. I would love to see that, obviously.
Agreed.
Really quick, there was a backstage segment where Alex Marvez caught up with one Kenny Omega. Of course, FTR and the Young Bucks will be facing each other at All In, which leaves Kenny Omega out in the cold by himself. So what is there to do for Kenny Omega? What do you think they are cooking up for Kenny Omega? Of course, now keep in mind, all of the big names are already booked. People like CM Punk, people like MJF and Adam Cole, and of course, like I said, FTR or if you have FTR and the Young Bucks are now in a tag team title match. What do you think they are cooking up for Kenny Omega
For All In,
for All In?
please give me Omega Osprey 3. Please give me Omega Osprey 3. You don't even have to build a story. Just tell us that's what you're going to do. Just be like, remember how good Wrestle Kingdom was? Yeah. You remember how we booked it again for Forbidden Door 2 and it was even better than the Wrestle Kingdom match? Like, oh yeah, by the way, we're going to give you Osprey Omega 3 just for the hell of it. The only reason it doesn't happen that way is if New Japan's like, whoa, guys, we want to save that for January. And they wait until Wrestle Kingdom to do it. But I would say give us Osprey Omega for the US the IWGP US title.
That could be an option. I was thinking that too. So yeah, that could be an option. I wouldn't mind that at all. The match they had the last pay-per-view was amazing. So I wouldn't mind that at all. But moving on, we had the Mogul Embassy promo. They came out with the bloodied tank top of Nick Wayne after beating him up last week. Right now, I think the Mogul Embassy, I think they're really picking up steam as another top heel faction in the company. I love Swerve right now. Honestly, I think he's just a really cool heel, and he plays a heel really, really well. So, yeah, I thought it was great. Him and AR Fox, I think, should be booked more as a tag team. Again, that just adds another tag team to the tag team division. And they definitely need more heels, obviously, in that tag team division. There are a lack of tag teams or heel tag teams in that division. Long story short, of course, Darby comes out and he claims that, that was probably Darby's best promo too. Darby's getting better and better, I think, on the mic for sure. But of course, he also claims that he has friends as well. And of course, it is the returning Sting after taking a very scary dive off of a ladder at his age. He's back from injury. And at the end of all this, Sting ended up pointing at the Wembley All-In sign, very WrestleMania WWE-like. So, and of course, it was made official. We are getting Darby and Sting versus AR Fox and Swerve Scott at Wembley All-In. And they said the stipulation for this match, they actually said it was going to be a coffin match, which is very interesting. Now, in a perfect world, this should be the, so to speak, final nail in Sting's career. But I don't know. Probably not. I'm not going to hold my breath.
This is let's figure out how to get people on the card setup.
For sure.
That's how I feel this is exactly what it is. Shadow says, I'd personally not see Swerve do another failed tag team push him as a singles competitor. I think after All In, we might see that. But I think right now, for all intents and purposes, they're trying to get as many people on the card as they can for All In to make it worth the while of those people spending the money on these tickets, because they sold all those tickets without a card. Now that they're building a card and it ultimately has to just be a super show, they're figuring out how many ways they can get big names on the card as they can now.
Absolutely. They're just trying to fill the card out. So that makes
Bingo.
sense. Hopefully this match card doesn't have like 12 matches on it, because we don't need that. It's always going to be quality over quantity. So
agreed.
But now it is time for the main event. Anna Jay versus Hikaru Shida. I thought this was a pretty decent match. I think it should have been given a little bit more time, because, I mean, you figure at 9:56 my time, they went to commercial that did the whole, picture-in-picture thing, and I just kind of felt like it didn't need that. If you really want to have a focus on the women's division in this main event, it should have been put on a little bit earlier, maybe even sacrificing maybe a segment or two just to give them more time. But I thought this was great. They had a great pacing of the match, great sequences. Shida obviously is still massively over, even though she's hardly ever on Dynamite. So she's still massively over. There was a Shida chant at one point and during the match. She has that intensity. She has that like I said, that good flow, that good pacing of a match. So I definitely loved seeing Sheeta back in AEW. Will, what did you think about this match?
This match surprised me in a good way. I remember Hikaru Shida's first title reign. I remember watching her run. I remember going, okay, good, not great. Watching her work now, though, I'm like, this isn't bad. Like, she's definitely stepped up. She could carry the division. She's not a bad look for the world title. And then this is most important to me for somebody who's supposed to be the veteran in a match. She made Anna Jay look not terrible.
Right.
Anna Jay didn't look bad. I'm not going to say she looked good, but she didn't look bad, which says
Salvageable.
something. The fact that Hikaru Shida made Anna Jay look not bad is like, hell yeah. Way to go, Hikaru Shida.
Absolutely.
Like, that's honestly the best way I can look at it.
Now, I don't know what really happened with the ending because, of course, Hikaru Shida hit her finishing move, and as she goes for the pin, I don't know, who was it? Cool Hand, whatever his name is.
Cool Hand Luke or whatever his name is.
Sort of tried to like grab Anna Jay's hand. I think the plan was he was going to reach in, grab her hand, and put it on the bottom rope, and that didn't happen. So I think it was kind of a sloppy finish there. But all in all, a pretty decent match for what it was. But yeah, that concludes Dynamite for 8/9/2023. Ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate all of y'all for joining us. But that concludes Dynamite, and that is episode 3 of The Boom. Will, you got anything else for us?
No, good, not great. That's the thing about it. But like I said, Dynamite is consistently good now, and I think that's the biggest takeaway. And that's what I'm excited about with Dynamite as a whole, is that it's consistently good week over week. Also, follow the Patreon and follow the Discord. They're both links in there in description. Boom.
Absolutely. Peace, love, and prosperity to everybody. Again, I thank every one of y'all for coming out and joining us for episode 3 of The Boom. We will be back next week for episode 4. Again, apologies for all the technical difficulties. There's so much technology going on in this house. That's a problem. And that's what you get with McDonald's Wi-Fi. But that concludes The Boom. And I appreciate all of you guys. Deuces.
Peace.
You know it's all about